like kind of to your point about Connor McDavid's frustration with not changing things. So the question is for me is so things are going south. Everything you've done up till this point that has worked in your regular season, your playoffs to get you to where you are now isn't working. So now it's kind of push comes to shove time, and you want to change things as a coach, right? I'm guessing. And how receptive are the players at that level to making that change? Because you're trying to get them to buy into something that they have not essentially been doing for the most part consistently, right? So at that point of the series, with all the mental piece, with the pressures, and hey, let's just keep doing what we're doing. We're going to get there, right? We've all had that conversation with our teams, and the players have had that. So will they buy in, actually get a team to change what they've been doing at that point and have it make a difference?
Well, Peter, I've got one observation. I think in short-term competition like world championships, you can get everybody to buy in, park their egos, but in long-term competition and in the NHL playoffs, it's much more difficult. You just can't avoid the emotional highs and lows that seem to occur. I mean, it is a marathon, like Cal Botterill said. So the art of being able to come up with an idea and push the right button at the right time. My question is, did they ever ask the players, hey, what do you think? The key players. McDavid was frustrated. Well, what do you think we can do differently? They're shutting us down here. Because we think as coaches, and we got our video guys, and there's three of us coaches breaking it down, we can go in and tell them what to do. I actually believe that at that level, those players would have ideas if we approach them about it. I don't know if that's the norm today or even thought about today. Dave, can you comment on that, having coached in the NHL?
Well, in the situation, to be specific, the situation the Oilers are in, you certainly can't change very much because you've got there with doing some things that, to me, it wasn't. It's not so much. Here's something we should try, in terms of a little variation or whatever. It's to go back to what was working successfully for them. They seem to abandon that. Like, to me, if your adjustments make sense, players buy in no matter what level you're at. So to me, the Oilers situation, I think they tried to possess the puck on the entry too much. Should have got it behind the defenseman more readily because the Oilers have great speed too, and they can forecheck. And they didn't really establish much of a forechecking game. And I think, to me, I'm assuming that's maybe what McDavid is referring to, because you can't take the chalk and make a whole bunch of changes to your team. You're there. You're in the final. You're in game 6. Or, say you're back further, you're game 1 and 2. Just start playing smarter. Start doing what you did to get there. And the Oilers, I thought against Dallas, they got the puck behind the defense very well. When Dallas played soft on the rush, they possessed the puck and got good entries with possession. So their game was really, really smart. Again, I'm going back to the fact that I think players have more physical stamina than mental stamina. And I think because their goaltending was always in question, that affected their mental stamina. And your outlook on a game affects how you play. And I think mentally it looked to me like Florida was getting charged up mentally and Edmonton was decharging mentally. And I think, Wally, it's not a simplistic one thing. These things are all part of there's not one simple answer to what happened with the Oilers. You can make changes if you like, but you can't make many changes at that point in the season. It's simply, you've told the players all year how you win. This is how we win. and you show them that kind of stuff and go back to doing what you were doing in other series. And they just seemed to me that they tried to do too much on an individual basis. Their game got less and less collectively offensively. And then their defensive liability started to show because they were without the puck a lot more than they normally play, Wally. So it's not simple. There's not a simple answer. It's really, really, there's a lot of factors here. But anyway.
Guys, everybody here, we know everybody watches the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches do takeaways from the Stanley Cup. Some coaches mistakenly try to do the same thing at their minor hockey level that they see the Stanley Cup players and coaches doing. But what lessons can minor hockey coaches learn from something like this? I've got one general thing as the agony of, the joy of victory and the agony of defeat. That could be the most distracting thing when you play the game. And so I believe that in minor hockey and even at the pro level, Dave, the job of one coach and one team and the job of the other coach and other team is to make them better. And their job is to make you better. And right now, there's lots to be learned here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's anything that this might be a lesson to minor hockey coaches. Tom? Peter?
Hey, always talking to you.
Anybody got any idea?
Well, I think you have to go and just make sure that they're solid in all the 4 playing roles. And you can't just focus on defense and you can't just focus on offense. And if at the minor hockey level, your kind of job is to make them complete hockey players. So that's my thought about it.
Peter? Brad, you've got a boy playing minor hockey,
Mm-hmm.
and you've watched a lot of minor hockey. What lessons can we take away from that they can take away from that? Coaches.
I think you have to empower the players a little bit, even at a minor hockey level. And like, I think the Florida had a much better leadership than Edmonton. Not the top end leadership, but throughout. And you watched my team play. We got beat, probably our worst game of the year, 7-2 in the round robin play, and we as coaches didn't have to say much. The players they were the next day that the leaders and the older players are sitting in a circle in the hallway figuring it out. And as you know, the next game was winning you get first, losing you go home. And that to put that on to have the players be able to take that even at a minor hockey level, to take it upon themselves to reiterate a coach's message or buy in regardless. I think at minor hockey, there's too many people that think they know that aren't involved. So you've got parents complaining, and then when a kid goes home, they're in the kid's ear. Well, now there's no respect for the coach or the system or the team play. It's, that those seeds are planted. And I think for minor hockey, it's too much focus on winning, in my opinion. And as you know, you should be working on making 3 passes, but let them work on making them good people and let them compete. And interesting, it comes down, for me, it comes down to the willingness for the players to play for each other and do what it takes to win. And Florida did that. It's not as much X's and O's when you want it more, in my opinion. But you have to make those adjustments. And as you mentioned, it's a little off topic, but the players got to buy into the adjustments that are being made, and they got to make have some purpose and not just to say we're trying different things. And it's amazing when you can make an adjustment or drop a play and it works, that the reaction you get from an entire team as a coach, and that belief and buy-in just increases. So
Well, Brad, I'm gonna, Dave, I don't know if you recall, but I remember when you came back from the first Izvestia and I came to practice and you told me the story of the players' response after the first period. I don't know if you'll recall the story. If you don't, I'll tell it. But they got a lesson in the reality of good hockey. And like in the dressing room, they delivered the message to one another. So can you relate to that experience and maybe talk about the Izvestia? Nobody knows about it, but it's the Russian Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting tournament because for all of us, myself included, it was our first Izvestia Cup. And you've got the five national teams. Well, yeah, the five national teams, four from Europe and Canada. So in those days too, it was uninterrupted, most of those teams, by the NHL. They had their top people. There's a few defectors from the Czech, maybe a Russian one or two, but not very many had defected to the NHL. But so the level was very high. And it was really interesting because when I listened to the players talking in the dressing room, I was kind of outside listening to them talk. They were saying all the right things. I mean, they knew what we had to do. We knew they knew that that's why we work so much on little techniques of defending and those kind of things. It suddenly what the coaching staff was trying to do, I think, made sense to the players because they finally saw the tip of the iceberg. They saw the top guys and saw why we had to do things a certain way. So from that point on, during that season, the Izvestia Cup gave us insights into really to the players as to what they had to do individually in terms of their commitment to playing the game in both directions. So, it was very valuable. And I think that's one thing I learned from working with the national team was that sometimes I just lurk outside the dressing room door between periods and I could hear the guys talking. And you know what, for years and years with the Europeans, it was simply dial up the physical aspect of the game and we'll win, and our guys realized that ain't going to work. We have to be physical, but we've got to be technically smart. And so it was a great learning experience, and it made it really easy for our coaching staff from that point on because the guys just figured out this is what we have to do if we're going to be competitive with these teams. And so, I think you mentioned, Brad mentioned it. I think we all agree. You've got to listen to your players sometimes, ask them. And so sometimes I don't think I ever really asked the guys very much. I should ask them more what we should do, but I listened to what they were saying and I heard them conversations. And it was very valuable for me as a coach to realize my players know a lot. They're smart. They know what they have to do. I just got to find a way to develop those ideas in practice. And one of the most important things about coaching is reinforcement. If you reward guys, this is Wayne Hallowell, when I was coaching in Montreal, mentioned, see it, appreciate it, acknowledge it. And so in the game today, that's what I saw a lot from Florida. Geez, I mean, Bobrovsky gets out of the net, a defenseman blocks a passing lane. He's tapping the guy when the play stops on the shin pads. So they really did a really good job of this whole team. I can see it all year. They build chemistry because they see it, they appreciate, they acknowledge it, and guys do it again. They repeat it. And all of a sudden, you got guys doing some pretty amazing things on a regular basis. And that's kind of why they won. So, that's a fascinating part about coaching. There's so much to it. It's not easy. People tend to look for one singular thing to analyze a problem. It's not. It's very complex. There's a lot of things going on. But I think the Oilers will learn from this. And I think that they'll rectify a few things in their roster. And I think if they get that one position figured out, I think they can be knocking on the door again next year. But, you got to build it. You got to build that chemistry throughout the season, and you really have to make sure your support guys. I mean, the top guys get lots of credit, lots of, they get more money too. So, it's pretty good. But they've got to make sure that everybody feels appreciated. Everybody sees their role. Their game serves the team. And that's an evolution. And Florida, I think, does that all year. And because they were the Cup champions from the previous year, they can draw upon that resource. And they did. You could see they put it together. After game 4, there must have been a team meeting where they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Nothing different. Just going to do it better, longer, harder. Because if they had kept forechecking in game 4, the series would be over there in terms of the whole thing going backwards for the Oilers.